All right, I think we are recording.
We are.
Okay. All right, so welcome,
Woohoo.
welcome, and thank you for being here for our third installment of the Mindful and Angry Administrators podcast, Education During the Pandemic. We are at our third session, and we are speaking with teachers who are teaching in a pandemic. My name is Gabrielle.
Yay,
Yay, for
teachers.
teachers. Um, my name is Gabrielle Thurmond, and I am one half of the Mindful and Angry Administrators. Gina?
My name is Gina Chill Hill, and I am the other half of the Mindful Angry Administrators. And I'm trying to be as mindful as possible. And welcome, Tiffany and Sandra. Thank you for being here. I will pass to whoever would like to go next to do a brief introduction of yourselves.
Hello. I'm Sandra. I've been a teacher now for 28 years. Presently, I'm teaching kindergarten. I've been in there for, I think this is my 11th year. But primarily, I've taught just primary grades, kinder, pre-K, and first grade. And 28 years, and never imagined I would be teaching it, during a pandemic, virtually. So glad to be here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you.
28 years, that's awesome. My name is Tiffany. I have been an educator for 4 years, so I'm relatively new to the profession. Currently teaching middle school. I have taught 6th, 7th, and now I'm teaching 8th grade English language arts at a charter school here in the Bay Area,
Right.
California.
And
Congratulations. It takes a special
Awesome.
person to do middle school. I started my teaching career as an 8th grade teacher, and I went down to elementary after that. So
Everybody says
Yeah.
that. Everybody says that.
there's a special,
No, not everybody. I started in 6th grade and taught 7th and then taught 7th and 8th grade. Then I went to a 4th grade. It was like a a 4th, 5th grade combination. I ran back to secondary. I was like, oh, middle school is my absolute favorite. Now I'm high school. I love the high school students. No shade to my high school students, but the 6th graders were my favorite.
I'm a
They're the ones that got me in this mess.
I'm a definite believer that every personality has its niche.
Mhm.
So my preference is upper elementary. That was my favorite. The babies, I like to visit and then go back home.
Right.
So, all right. So yeah, well, we can just go ahead and jump right into the questions. Okay, so
Let's do this.
yeah. So teaching during the pandemic, what is one of your greatest challenges that you've experienced since distance learning?
For me, it's just making sure that, all the students are engaged, are coming to class. This school year, I do have 26 students, 26 kindergartners. And I mean, I do have pretty good attendance, but I mean, they do log in, but they're just those few that, are turned to the side, chit-chatting, with other members or listening to conversations or maybe listening to the lesson, that their other siblings might be, watching as well, Zooming. So I think just having to have those students really engaged, when they are on Zoom, I mean, they're 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, so their attention span, very short. So, when we're in person, I can jump from one thing to another, but with Zooming, it's just hard, just a little bit more challenging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I have to echo that. Of all the challenges, and I have 3 top, but that would be number 1. It is difficult I have 28 students in each of my classes, and on a small screen, making, it's hard. And these middle schoolers are at that age where they're self-conscious about everything. They don't want to be on camera. They are, panicked about being on camera. And so engagement is my top challenge as well.
Thanks for sharing. What
I'm
were your,
curious.
yeah, I'm curious
Yeah,
about
I was
the other
curious. Well, I
two.
think we're about to say the same thing. What are the other two? What are the other two?
Oh, the other one is family outreach, and like I'm really interested now to look at the podcast that you had with parents, because making that connection with parents in distance learning has been a challenge for me. The other one is Zoom fatigue takes me out at the end of every day.
Yeah. And I think, emotionally, and I know I've spoken to a few other colleagues, Zoom does take a lot, I have to use my essential oils before I start Zooming in the morning, just to have that calming effect. I mean, yes, I've been teaching for 28 years, but it's different. It's like you're in front, like, am I doing enough? I don't know. It's just so many things going through, my head, just to get just mentally prepared, every morning, is taking, a little bit of toll mentally, emotionally, but once I get into it, like, good morning, we're singing, and I'm fine. But it's just, that half hour before that, just a little bit, hard.
Don't know if you can see it.
Exactly.
Got my lavender on my desk.
I know that's right.
Keep game, people.
Look, that and
Essential oils. I just put a
and,
little bit in my hand.
and burning
Light
candles.
a candle.
Yeah.
Yes. So I guess I think we hear a lot about the challenge. What would you say is working with distance learning? This could be tidbits of wisdom for other folks who are listening and other teachers who might need some tips. But what for you is you're like, that works well and I'm going to stick with it?
I think for me, just really having that schedule, that structure for, the students, every day, I do have the whole group Zoom in the first 45 minutes. And then after that, we break into 3 small groups throughout the morning. But just knowing that they have that schedule, the parents know, okay, my child's in group 1, group 2, group 3. And I mean, Monday's a little bit challenging because it is late start. So that's the only day that's a different schedule. But I mean, we're on week, 15, 16, I don't know. But every Monday, I still send a remind message to my parents in the morning. Remember, today's late start. We're not starting at 9, starting 9:25. And here's the schedules for the small groups, so just making sure they have that schedule, and even if I have to remind them, I know, some people might say, well, they should know it. They should have it. They should, but, it just makes it a little bit easier, just send that little remind message, that, the schedule is going on, as follow. So, this past Sunday afternoon, almost at the end of our 3rd week of winter break, I sent a message to the parents. I said, just remind you, we're not going to have school tomorrow. It's pupil free day, but we do start on Tuesday at 9 a.m. And again, here comes Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock. Good morning, parents. I just want to remind you, class starts at 9 a.m. today, and just making sure they have that routine and they can follow. So.
I think for me, what's working 100% is my systems. When I say systems, I mean like just the kind of systematic approach to teaching right now, and my tech systems for using Zoom, which is Sketch. It's not perfect, but I'm able to communicate with my students over different systems. We're using Canvas right now, which is very helpful, easy, user-friendly for us. So my systems for behavior, Gina, me with my reps, it's working. And it gives me confidence to, push forward.
When you, what are your, can you give us some examples of your behavior systems?
Okay. We have, it's a school-wide approach, but we have what's called our reps. It's our routines, expectations, and procedures. And we have reps for everything, including how to show up to class and how to interact when you're in Zoom. And so how to, be heard, because we can't have 29 people speaking over Zoom at once. You can't be heard, but you should be heard. So what do you do? Or how to communicate with your teachers, how to send an appropriate email, or how to communicate with your peers, how to behave in breakout spaces. So all of any possible situation, we have routines. And it's like for these 8th graders, they have matriculated through. They started at 5th grade, now they're in 8th grade, they get it. So it's kind of smooth. But when you're teaching 6th grade, which I did last year at the start of the pandemic, it was a little bit more of a challenge because you don't have, 2 weeks to practice your reps, you're just on. So we practiced year long, but establishing them in the beginning of school, and here we are, second semester, it works.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. Distance learning is a new way of learning for many young people. And to be really explicit and deliberate about teaching this is how you do it is really important, really important. We've had to, in the high school, go through and bring kids on a Zoom and say, share your screen. Now show me your calendar. Let me show you how to negotiate the calendar so you know where to get the Zoom links, because these are just things that they didn't regularly use. And now they're like, oh, just put it in my calendar. I'm like, that's like music to my ears. So there are some good things that are happening. It's like they're using their calendars. This is amazing. So
Sandra, I'm curious, like, how do you implement your routines and teach your babies new skills in how to use the technology effectively?
Well, I mean, we started the first 2 weeks, back in August, when we started the school year. It was just basically just going over procedures, going over routines, going over the Zoom rules, how to turn on the microphone, how to, turn off your camera screen. Just setting those, those behaviors at the beginning of the school year. And then what I would do every day at that time, I would show the parents and the child, one of the programs or, the technology that we'd use, so, like whatever programs we were going to be using, that's what I was gonna, I was showing them. So part of their homework, or the asynchronous time would be to be practicing on there, so even if it's just a simple, okay, what was one thing you learned today? Just record, just so they can learn how to record themselves, on the Schoology, of course. But now, I'm using Seesaw because that's where I assign activities. So it was just, slowly, one day at a time, and and we would just practice, so coming this time around, on when I met with my colleagues, my grade level colleagues on Monday, we were talking about how else can we engage the students, so I mean, we were all using some things, and it was really good to see the PD that the administrators were showing us, because okay, well, yeah, we use our whiteboards in order for the kids to show their responses and get engaged, so it kind of validated that, what we were doing was fine, especially with kinder, because sometimes, and I try to calm my colleagues sometimes, my grade level, because when, someone presents a PD and they're like, oh, well, these are things, skills that you can present to the older, they seem more for the older kids. And then, of course, my kinder colleagues like, oh, wait, well, can our kids do that? I say, just chill, it's more geared towards them, but slowly we'll get them there, So, so one of the things we're starting this week is, okay, let's have them, use the chat, because I haven't had them use their chat. So let's start slowly. Let's, in our small groups, because I'm not going to do it in my whole group, is have them just open up the chat and just type hi, And it's okay if if they have a parent or grandparent or a tia next to them to help them out, it's okay. But just to help them out. So, we're doing that for like a week, then move on for them to type in their name. So hopefully when we, log into our whole group, okay, the way I'm going to take attendance is you guys go to the chat and, type in hi, your name, so slowly, but, it's doable. So.
I love that explanation, Sandra, because so my first year of teaching, I taught 8th grade, and then my second year of teaching, I taught 4th and 5th grade combination. And so my whole goal, and I used to tell my students and the parents that I said, I've taught at middle school, so I'm preparing you for middle school. Right. And so when I was teaching 3rd grade, I'm like, okay, I'm preparing you for 4th grade. I'm preparing you for middle school. I'm preparing you for high school. So I love the idea of being able to take a skill that may be presented, for a high school student or a middle school student or even upper grade student, and then modifying it and figuring out how you can break it down so that you can begin the preparation for students in a different grade level, or even, how to make a skill or an idea more complex, so that you can build up on it, for the upper grades. I just love that.
Mhm. And I'm sure they'll get it. I know one of the main complaints this year, in the spring when we went out, lockdown, at the beginning of the pandemic, like our kindergartens, first and second graders, they were given iPads, but there was a lot of issues with the iPads. A lot of them were older. And while the other grades, they ended up getting the Chromebooks. So this school year, the principal's like, no, we're getting everybody a Chromebook, even our kindergartners, our TKers, and our preschoolers, just so that they, the Zoom, they can see it better than on the iPad. So I mean, that's a good thing, that they do have the Chromebook. But the only complaint I've had just from a few parents and kids is, manipulating the mouse track, on the Chromebook. It's hard, and of course, they're still working on their fine motor skills. But I said, look, if, I know you're used to the iPad and, just, sliding with your finger, you'll get it. We'll just practice, But, when I do assign activities on Seesaw, I try to, assign activities where they're going to use the tools, the drawing tools, the drag and, slide, but give them activities, okay, where I'm not having them trace over the letter, because that's going to be harder for them. So I try to find something that's, they're still learning the skills, but they'll be able to use the tools that are a little bit easier, with the technology that they're using.
I want to ask, like, since you have been teaching online, I know you've been introduced to a variety of applications and programs and whatnot. So my question is, like, what's one or two of your favorite applications or software programs that you use on a regular basis, and why?
Right. Seesaw, it's, one of the ways that, the children can access, activities that I assign them. And it doesn't have to be my own, there's a whole loads of resources that, other educators have come up with. So if I want to look up on addition, simple addition, activity, I'll just type in kindergarten, math, addition up to 5. And I have a whole screen of activities already there, so it's not like I have to, take a lot of my own time to prep and look up, because those resources are there. So, I thank my colleagues from everywhere, from our district and, the whole country, coming up for these lessons or activities that I don't have to come up, and taking that time. So Seesaw is one of them, it's, I know one of my colleagues, my TK colleague, she's still, a little bit apprehensive of using it. She's like, I don't want, I said, Maria, when you're ready, I'll help you, but it's the best thing. You don't have to come up with anything. And then, just, the other programs that I do use, because I try not to use a lot, is, what, the district is providing. So for reading, amplify reading, it gets them through the skills. And I think for kindergarten, they really need that foundation, and, which I know they're missing out, that we're not in person. But I think, Amplify reading is really good because it does work on their phonemic awareness skills, not just phonics, but just the phonemic awareness that they really need. So that's something that I assign asynchronous, for them to work on. And then it's not like, the parent has to be there with them because, it's self-explanatory. It directs them as to what they need to do. And, that's one of the things. And the other program that I use for math is Zern, which is also provided by the district. It just follows its number sense. I mean, that's one of the main, areas that, for kinder, they need to work on, in first grade. So it's, one of the things that they can work on. So I try to find things that make it easier for them. Where the parents don't have to stress themselves out if they're not tech savvy, or, they may not know much, they may not have that language, the English language to help them out. But at least, these are simple programs that the kids are able to do on their own.
Thanks, Sandra. What about you, Tiffany?
In addition to Canvas, which I mentioned earlier that I love using, and we're new to Canvas, that's why it's a big deal to me. Bookshare right now is key in getting text out to students. In my classroom, we have classroom libraries where I have books that they can, take home, read, and we just don't have it. They don't have access to actual books because of, the pandemic. And so Bookshare is super helpful in getting texts out to students. The other one that I love, Teachers Pay Teachers right now. I'm really just focused on books. We are reading books in class, and curriculum around books is available on Teachers Pay Teachers, and I love it.
Thank you. Thank you both for sharing.
I'm curious how you know that the students are being successful, and what are students saying that they like about some of these tools?
Well, for my tools that I mentioned are really for me and to help my practice, but I think it's students having access to the materials is how they benefit. And with, I was going to say Clever, I use Clever, but Canvas, like I said, it's user friendly. My students are able to communicate to me via Canvas. They're also, we're doing, we have a daily assignment, which is like our engagement assignment, and that's the discussion forum on Canvas. And they do it. They do it and they interact with each other on this platform. It's public. And I know some students have issues with posting their work publicly. So for those students, of course, I allow them to email it to me, but discussion is happening. And this is, college kids are doing this, right? And so they need this skill. This is an intro to, things that you're going to use later, but they interact. That's the, that's the joy of it for me. They're actually interacting, they're responding to each other. So that's one way I know that they, are benefiting from these systems, these programs.
Love it. Love it.
For me, I know, they do enjoy it because, like the Zern and the Amplify, yes, they're learning, they're actually, learning the skills, but in a fun way, like if there were video games. So, some of the things, like Zern, they have, activities where they have to push the button, to make the person jump, or, the things fall, so it's interactive for them. It's like a video game, both, both activities. So, and I do see their progress, because I look at the progress, like for Zern every week I see how much they progress, because I just give them a certain time, like, I'll assign them, okay, today do 10, 15 minutes, but I get to the parents, if you want to go beyond, fine, you can do more, even if I don't assign it. And I do see that in some of the kids, where they're actually progressing even more and more. So, that's one of the, the ways that I do see that they do enjoy some of those programs. So, and
I forgot.
in terms of books, we do use the Epic program where, they can go and select their own books. Now, for my kids, they're still learning how to read, but, the good thing is they have the audio, so they can listen to the stories. They can pick a book, and, that's, another way, especially, to get those books, not physically, but at least virtually to them.
One other program I forgot to mention that we're using now is Common Lit, which I love.
Tell me a little bit about Common Lit. I'm all into literacy.
Common Lit is great because it caters to every age group. There are materials in there, and it's just like texts. So articles, informational texts, narratives, poems, all of that is available. And it's like reading level appropriate, and you can kind of select what you need for each student. You can individualize the articles. You can, scale it up a little bit if you want more complex text for your learners. And it's like there's a large variety of texts. It's not all, we're reading everything on Common Lit, so it's nice.
Sweet. You sound like you're having fun in your classrooms.
Trying.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear, because it's always like, oh my God, it's overwhelming. It's so challenging. I like to hear about what's working. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I like to hear the success stories. So especially, in terms of like student attendance. So how do you address like the needs of your students? Like, what is it that you think is needed to promote the success of students in your community, whether it's showing up, every day, the attendance, whether it's making sure they're accessing the curriculum academically, whether it's making sure they're okay emotionally. Like, what is it that is needed in your communities?
Well, at least I know with our community, I think, just making sure, not just the technology, but, one of the things with primary kids, they need hands-on activities, they need manipulatives, which, we were able to provide this year. And even my grade level, we came up with another, kind of a set of manipulatives that they can use for math. So they can make sure that, they can learn and having fun at the same time, when they're working with math and stuff. But just really making sure that they are provided, it's just some of the basic stuff, with pencils, crayons, because, sometimes we take it for granted that, well, you can get it at the 99-cent store, sometimes they don't, So just making sure they really have just the basic supplies and, those extras that would make, the learning more fun, because I've had kids say, oh, I love math. I love math time, of course, because they're playing with manipulatives, but they're learning, So I think, really making sure that, we can provide that for them and, just provide services, luckily, we do fund PSA attendance counselor at our school. We have her for 3 days a week, but she's amazing. So even at the beginning, when we're trying to, find out where are these students that I'm supposed to have, I'm calling, but I'm not getting any phone calls back or any response. She was great, and she went out there, to look for those children. Where are they? And be able to find them. But just having just those resources and have available, our administrator, our assistant principal, and one of our coordinators, they've been available to help with the tech support, because just giving that district number was not helping. And, so I think locally it helped to have, someone at the school site to actually help, parents and the students, with their technology needs as well.
Tiffany, what about middle school? Because I know attendance in particular, usually the kids are older. So if parents have to go to work, the kids can stay at home and, go to school. So how does it work at your site?
Attendance actually is pretty great, at least for my 8th graders. I look at the attendance report every afternoon, and it's not bad, surprisingly. But the school has really done a lot to support students with attendance. Every student has their laptop. Every student has a modem for Wi-Fi. So, you know, they really have gone a long way to eliminate things that would keep students out of school. And then just really it takes a team. All those things that you mentioned are factors that, you know, that sort of keeps students out of school or keep them disengaged. And it takes a whole team to have your students logging in every day.
Mhm.
And it takes a
Right.
great deal of follow-up at this level. If students are not, you have to be vigilant. You have to do your due diligence, make those phone calls home.
Yep.
But it usually takes one phone call home for parents to kind of get their kids to come around. Usually, there of
Mhm.
course are some students that there's only so much you can do, and then you need supports from your dean of students and you need intervention. But attendance is surprisingly great, but like I said, it's a team effort.
So here's the thing, because I have a theory, I don't have any evidence, but I think the classroom teacher also makes a huge difference, right? Like a child
There's evidence.
wants to wake up and say, I want to see my teacher. I want to see what my teacher has in store for me today. So, you know, I know we're coming down on time, but I want to ask, what's one reason or what's one way you utilize your student feedback to know that, okay, I got to continue this activity or I want to do this again? Like, how do you incorporate your student feedback to guide your lesson planning or activities?
Well, I
Wait.
look to see, what kind of response am I getting, through this, whether is, it could be one of the hands-on activities that I'm doing. Is it working? Do I really see them, engaged or not? I've seen where some kids just sit there, don't really engage. But the minute I put a video, for a brain break, they're up, and they're moving around. So I'm like, okay, that tells me, okay, I got to do more moving around with, some of these students, to get them, so I may do, like a, like a, what do you call it? A treasure hunt or something, just for them to, get them moving, but it'll be something like, okay, let's find something that begins with the letter S, get up and move, just to get them really, into it.
Mhm.
So.
I think for one, student advocacy is a huge push for me. I constantly encourage students to advocate for themselves and their peers. If you're struggling, it's possible that your peers are also struggling. It only takes one student to advocate for me to get it. But also incorporating things that they like. My children love, they're so dark and they love dystopia and they love, so we're reading about dystopia. We're reading, and they like talking about all the contention that's happening in the world. And I love it. So
Mhm.
we're putting that into whatever we're doing. We're talking about race, we're talking about politics, we're talking about zombies, if that's the case. But I think they have to see themselves in what they're doing, and that's going to keep them interested.
Nice.
Thank you for
I
sharing.
know. I'm really curious about just wisdom that you two might be able to partake onto our listeners. I'm curious, what would you say to parents about things they can do to best support their student success? I'm also curious about what you would say to teachers for how to, like, a silver bullet for teachers to best support student success during distance learning. And then a tidbit of wisdom to yourself. So first, what about parents to best support their child's success?
I think, whether, even though we're in a pandemic, I would just, let parents know, still hold your child accountable for their learning, regardless that, they're at home, we're not at school, but, you are expected, to
Right.
log in, whether I work or not, if the parent works, or not, that the child is supposed to log in and have that accountability. I know it's not easy, as a parent. I mean, I have a little bit easier because, I have a college daughter, and, I have a son who's about to graduate, but, I'm still on there, making sure they wake up on time, especially my senior. But, I think just, yes, we're in a pandemic, but let's remember, yes, we have to take in consideration whatever needs our families have, but make sure that they're also making sure that they're holding their child accountable, that that's their job, that they're supposed to learn, even if they just log into Zoom and sit there. I'm happy with that, because at least if they're there, they may not be engaged too much, but I know they're listening. They're probably listening to me. But I think that would be one of the things, for parents.
Nice. What about you, Tiffany?
I'm just pleading with parents to really hold our school time as sacred time. Like, give your students this time between the hours of 8 and 3 to be in school, even though you're at home, and just prioritize it. And also, I think what I'm seeing is sometimes parents aren't, I don't know, this is why I need parent input as well, but not taking the school year as seriously because we're in a pandemic, but honor the resilience of your child and know that they can still be successful even in a pandemic. If they have a team of support, be part of that team of support.
Yeah. Honor the resilience of your child. I'm going to get that on a t-shirt. That's amazing. Yeah. And then to other teachers, this is a challenging time. The politics, the health and wellness, the mental health of teachers and students. I'm scared about how many teachers might actually leave the profession as a result of all of this because it's been so taxing. Tidbits of wisdom for teacher survival during this pandemic. What do you think?
I think, as an educator, that, we should rely on each other. Don't feel afraid to seek help. I mean, I know we're all at home, some of my colleagues might have younger kids and I may not want to bother them, but, just a simple text like, hey, how's it going? Can you help me on this? And then, it'll depend on that person, that colleague, how the response is going to be, but, at least to reach out, to each other,
right.
On a personal basis, or just, academically, as a work place. But just take it day by day, don't stress yourself out. We're all in it. It's first time ever, we've been thrown into this, and try to keep ourselves as healthy as we can.
Awesome.
Snap.
What about you, Tiffany?
Yes,
Stay healthy.
I would echo that and just say, really choose yourself. I don't see me being an effective educator if I'm miserable. And it helps if you have a supportive admin team, but take care of yourself. Choose yourself in that, knowing your limits. If it's too much, just take a step back, take a day. We have some flexibility, so use it with your we do with your asynchronous and synchronous planning. But take care of yourself so that you can take care of your business.
Put the oxygen mask on first.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else that you want to share that
plane ride, y'all.
Just burning desires. Anything else that you would like to share?
How do you keep yourselves afloat?
Oh yeah, it's selves. Yeah, how are you keeping it? You practice what you preach?
100%.
Not 100%, but I'm working on it. But even though, like I said, my kids are older, they still need me. So that's one thing that keeps me a little bit grounded as well. So, so I make it a point, to be with them and listen to them and see what they have. I know we ended up getting a puppy during our pandemic, so that's been also one of our comforts.
Get a puppy, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like a leather child, so but he's my little Oskinator. But yeah, but one thing is, I've learned through this thing that there's some things you just need to let go, in the classroom, You know, I know
Amen.
we wanna do our best, but you know, it's okay. You know, I hear, but what if the parent does the work? You know what? It's okay. You know, with Seesaw, I can see what time, you know, the work is turned in. And there was one night where one of my students was turning it in at 11:30 at night. And then another assignment after midnight. I'm like, well, you know, that child shouldn't be up, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I told myself, no, let me back up because I don't know. I know that mom works and maybe that's the only time that mom can dedicate that time with that child, you know, and I knew it was a child doing the work
Wow.
because she had to record herself. So, but she was okay. The next morning, she was there, you know, logging in at 9 a.m. for Zoom. So, with, you know, she wasn't pretending, you know, she was still asleep. She was ready to be there at 9. So, I think, you know, I just had to let go of something. I said, it's being done, you know, late, but it's okay, you know. But just certain things, you know, you just can't be in control of everything at all. So,
Right.
I love that, Sandra. That's part of self-care, letting
Yeah.
some things go.
exactly.
Mhm.
Well, I want to say thank you for your participation in this conversation. Teachers are the heartbeat of the school system, and you know, if the heart stops beating, we're all in trouble. So,
True.
one thing that we can be sure of is change is constant, and we might as well get comfortable with instability and discomfort. So, but I appreciate you all. You really shared some gold nuggets, and I hope that people who do listen to this or watch this podcast can take away some, you know, some things on a positive note. On that note,
Feeling a lot of gratitude and take deep breaths,
Mhm.
people.
Definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Ashe.
all right.
Woo-hoo.